Hello, and welcome to K-Pod, the podcast about Korean Americans and arts and culture from Korean American Story. The episode you're about to hear is our conversation with playwright, television writer, and producer Diana Sohn, whom we spoke with in early May. Diana grew up in Dover, Delaware, and studied dramatic literature at NYU. She first came to prominence as a young playwright with her acclaimed play Stop Kiss, which debuted at the Public Theater and starred an unknown actress named Sandra Oh. Diana's many television writing and producing credits include The West Wing, Southland, Dirty John, Blue Bloods, and Law and Order: Criminal Intent. She was also executive producer of the Netflix series 13 Reasons Why. A mother of three, Diana lives in Brooklyn and is currently working on a handful of new television projects, including one set in present-day Korea. Catherine and I were so thrilled to hear Diana's story, especially her efforts to support diversity and representation in Hollywood. We hope you enjoy our conversation.
Hi, Diana.
Hi, Catherine. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, we're very excited to speak with you today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Diana, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to these past few weeks.
Well, I started off the quarantine by having COVID-19.
Oh, wow.
It was, a relatively mild case. I didn't have to be hospitalized. I didn't go on a ventilator or anything like that. I actually didn't have really strong respiratory symptoms. But I went to my doctor because I said, I think I had a cold last week, it's not, and I'm sure it's not COVID-19, but just and I said, and I don't mean this literally, but I kind of feel like I have a brain tumor.
God.
This is mid-March. It was just okay, your flu test is negative. I'm probably going to get sent home. You should go directly to, I rent a studio apartment that I use as a home office. And he's like, you should just go there. I was like, okay, so don't go home, and he's like,
Wow.
yeah, if you can, just go home. Again, it was very early. I clearly didn't qualify to get a COVID-19 test because, again, I could breathe, you know what I mean? And the criteria was, if they felt that your course of treatment would change as a result of the test, then they would give you the test. But, my treatment was honestly to stay at home and take Tylenol. I mean, that's literally all my doctor could give me.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know this is super frustrating. There's nothing to take. We don't know. And yeah.
Wow. How long were you in your studio?
2 weeks.
Oh, wow. So you had family bringing you food and all of that?
Yeah, people, family and friends, and they dropped off all kinds of supplements and all that stuff. But I have 3 friends who also had it. And our course is very similar, which is fever and headache for a week, and then 2 or 3 days of respite when we thought we were better. And then it all came back again for another 3 or 4 days. But the main, I had the headache, chills, alternating with, getting really hot, body aches, and nausea, loss of appetite. But it's when you're sick and you are taking care of yourself, and with this particular kind of it makes you feel really drained and exhausted and miserable. It's I didn't even feel like getting up and walking that far to take my elderberry or my vitamin C, or do you know what I mean? There's just it just sapped my will to do it. My day was like this: sleep a lot, sleep, and then I'd wake up and then I'd just be awake. You know what I mean? And then I'd fall asleep again.
It's great that you had a place to sleep and recover.
Yeah.
That worked out pretty well.
It did. And then nobody else has been infected. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're all better. You were really a part of it.
And actually, my co-writer on another project also got it. So it was the project was stalled, obviously. But I just thought, for the producer, it was just what are the chances that the 2 writers on your one project both have COVID-19? And then later when she and I actually were on very similar schedules. And by the time we were both, able to start working again, But like the exhaustion includes like cognitive exhaustion, right? But it took us a while to get up and running. But so we're doing a TV adaptation of the recently released novel, If I Had Your Face by Frances Cha.
Look, I have the book.
Yeah, great.
So can we go back a little bit? Maybe I want to hear about your earlier career, but since we're on this, tell us what the project is, because we didn't really get to it. So it's a debut novel by a writer named Frances Cha. It takes place in Korea. It's about four friends who each tell the story from their point of view. Is that right?
That's what the book is about. Yeah. So, well, one of them is not a friend in the book, but so Frances Cha used to be a cultural correspondent for CNN, and she covered Asia. She is Korean born, I believe, but she has really had spent time in both countries. She's fluent in the Korean language and also fluent in Korean culture, current Korean culture. Though she lives here, and she's Korean American, and in fact, this is the first Korean American novel that's set in present day Korea. And so, we were really quite worried and sad for her, because her book was going to come out during the quarantine. But actually, and so she couldn't go on book tour and do, live interviews, TV interviews and stuff like that. But she's gotten some amazing reviews on the book, and it went into its second printing yesterday.
Fabulous.
So the
already.
book,
So you're turning it into, will it be a film or a series or?
No, it's a series. Yeah. I work almost exclusively in TV. So a year and a half ago, probably, Frances's book agent, Teresa Park, who has also gotten into TV producing, she said, I have this book coming out. I represent this author. This book's going to come out next year or something. But I think it's really, really fascinating look at present day Korea. It's primarily set in a room salon culture, which is like kind of hostess bars. It's sort of like bottle service that the businessmen after work, they take their clients there, and they rent a room, and then a pretty room salon girl or two, depending on how many guests you have, come in and they serve you drinks and they laugh at your jokes and they just sort of like, they're entertaining. So she said, it's really, really interesting. It's, all female characters. I want to send it to you when I get the manuscript next week. I was definitely interested in the characters and also the beauty culture in Korea. And I really responded to these four. In the book, it's three. The book has changed a lot. Without getting too complicated. So the draft of the book that I read did have four young women who were all the same age. But over the year that Frances spent editing and revising the book, one of those characters got jettisoned and will have her own novel dedicated to her next. But she is in our TV show.
I see.
In a TV series, you want it to go for seasons and seasons and seasons. So you need to get, 30, 40, 50 episodes out of it. We invented a lot of storylines. Yeah, and we changed, some backstory for the characters and some of their present day situations, but it is faithful in spirit. And Frances is a producer on the show. So she hears all of our ideas, and she helps with a lot of the sort of accuracy, and insight into present day Korean culture, because Jihye actually does go to Korea once a year because her parents still live there, but I haven't been to Korea since I was in my 20s. Frances really is an enhancement in that way, but she also she really likes and is excited by our invention.
Could you walk us through the steps of how this whole pilot gets made and what part,
Sure.
What stage of the writing you're in right now?
So having read the book and then having taken it out to the networks, we ended up selling it to Apple, which means that Apple has made the commitment to pay me and my co-writing partner Jihei Park to write a pilot, and based on the pilot script, they will make a decision whether or not to pick it up to series.
And you said that you'd gotten feedback, so you're in the rewrite process of the pilot?
Yeah, so we turned in an outline.
Uh-huh.
In I think February or something, and we got some notes, and the notes sort of required some reinvention in terms of the story. The characters are the same. We had invented something not in the book that we thought would be a catalytic event that would help propel our girls, but sort of in execution, sort of seeing it fleshed out. But they were sort of like, for example, they wanted more interaction between the girls, and they thought our catalytic event, they wanted something that was a little bit more in a way positive.
Diana, I'm so interested in, because you've had now so much experience working on all these different shows, so West Wing and Southland and Blue Bloods. What do you feel like you've learned, or what have you gotten better at in all these years working on TV shows?
A lot. Like being a TV writer, first of all, being a TV writer ultimately culminates in you becoming a producer. And the ultimate position you have is showrunner, which is the boss of everybody, right? So like in film, the director is really the boss of everybody, and in TV, it's the writer producer.
Do you feel like you've learned how to manage people by now? I mean, you must be very good at it because you're managing all these people, 13 Reasons Why, you're running everything.
Yeah, it's like, yes, it is. So it's and it's kind of interesting because, a writer isn't trained or preternaturally gifted with being like managing teamsters, for example, which is part
you think it would be the antithesis, right?
Yes,
the writers
exactly.
are like closeted in their like
How
little,
did you,
private space.
Yeah.
How do you feel like you developed as a showrunner? Was it hard for you, or you seem like a very confident person and in control, but I don't know what you were like when you were younger.
Well, that's the thing is, and I have to say that I am proud of it, and I also feel the beneficiary of a career in which I started at the bottom and worked my way up every rung of the ladder, right? And so along the way, I learned so many lessons by watching my showrunner, by being at the mercy of my showrunner, by being thrown on set and not being told what to do, you know what I mean? And then by working with directors who would, educate me in terms of what they were looking at. And, by the DP, the director of photography, telling me what they're looking at, and a first AD explaining why we're waiting 45 minutes for the lighting setup. You know what I mean? Like, because I have, I don't know, tens of thousands of hours on set before I became a showrunner.
Was there a certain way you first tried to do it and then realized, okay, I need to be more aggressive? Or
yeah, the biggest learning curve was like, even though like on 13 Reasons Why, I was going to meetings that I had been in before, but that moment when you're like, oh, I'm supposed to give that answer. You know what I mean? Like, that was sort of like a learning curve for me. Like I'm used to paying attention in the meeting and having an opinion, but not everyone turning to me and for the answer. There was that. And then also as a showrunner, you are definitely involved in more behind the scenes, sort of executive network and studio level meetings, budget meetings, that even as a co-executive producer, which is like the lieutenant colonel, sort of position, even those meetings were new to me. But my point in terms of like, I'm so both proud of and grateful of the fact that I worked my way up from the bottom, that these days, because there's so much content, right? There's over 500 shows in production pre-shutdown, that, people were getting handed shows that have literally never been a staff writer, literally never been on a TV set before, or maybe did 1 year, as a staff writer, and then they sold a pilot and they were like, I want to be the showrunner. And the network goes, you can be the showrunner, like, I would not want to, I would like, they're lucky, great, good for you, enjoy. But like, I wouldn't want to be that person. You know what I mean? It would be like if I said to, and either of you, like if you were like, gosh, I love bread. Like, I wish I could own a bakery someday. And if I said, here's $1 million, open your bakery. Do you know what I mean? Like, you would be like, I love this. I have the passion for it. But like, I don't know what I have to get refrigerators. Where do I buy ovens from? So it's you're like, if you are somebody who just gets a show handed to you, like it's an incredible gift. Again,
It's a lot of responsibility as well.
so much responsibility, and there are so many people involved. There's 150 people who make a TV show. Many of them crew members working already 14, 16 hours a day. And, if you don't know what you're doing, you are going to waste people's time.
So I have a question for you that's maybe a little tangential, but I mean, we have seen in media I wouldn't say an explosion because it's kind of like a smaller explosion, but with a lot of movies and shows with Asian characters, whether it be Parasite or Crazy Rich Asians or To All the Boys I've Loved Before. And you've been in this industry for so long. I wonder, how do you see that? Because you were part of this industry before and seeing the lack of Asian faces and representation. You must have been the only Asian, the only woman in a lot of rooms.
I think the only woman, probably only The West Wing. But let's see. And the only Asian, most of the time. Yeah, on Law and Order Criminal Intent, there was a South Asian woman and then a biracial woman, sort of a polyglot woman. But we didn't work as a team. We weren't on that particular show. We didn't have a writer's room, and I only saw them occasionally, like passing in the hallway if they were coming in and I was going out. For the most part, yes, the only Asian. And so most of my career has been trying to get representation on the screen, right? So if I was going to create a character, or if there was going to be a recurring character, I would, sort of pitch like, well, maybe it could be either that the character is Asian American, or if they were ethnic specific, I would, try to pitch an Asian American actor, right? And say like, hey, there's no reason this character couldn't be Asian American. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have to be Asian American, but there's no reason they couldn't be.
Were people receptive?
It varied, and I think there's, what I would say is, it's, in a way, it's always hard to get an actor cast that doesn't have some kind of name or reputation. They don't even have to be a household name, but if you say, I want to cast so-and-so, like, let's say it's a cop show, let's say it's an episode of Law and Order Criminal Intent, right? And the bad guy for that episode, let's say I pitch an Asian American actor. Casting director might say, great, I'm happy to bring in Asian American actors. Everyone might say, agree, like, of course, yes, let's audition everybody, And then when it comes down, to finally talking about it, you sort of get two things. One, I feel like, is like the network, like, there's never, when you audition, because it's you, the writer, the director, and then the producer, it's extremely rare that you all agree on one person to send to the network for approval. Usually you have like 2 or 3, right? And you send 2 or 3 options. And what I have found is, just in terms of inherent bias, is that just sometimes, like, whatever, the handsome white guy, who looks maybe more what people think that character, that type of character would look like, inherent bias. He's, they're going to be like, I just thought his performance was really nuanced and really blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And like, and I, counter argue, but it's like, you can't argue people out of inherent bias, but it is different now. So yes, I would say I do credit Crazy Rich Asians with really opening the door. I think it was happening anyway, but what really opens the door and enables opportunities to be made available that weren't before is financial success. people aren't going to just decide. We need more Asian American representation. What's wrong with us? Why haven't we had this before? Right? It's financial success. Like, oh, look at that. People will pay money to see these people and to hear their stories. And so I think that really opened the doors. And but I'll say this: it is my observation. I don't follow every single project, but I know that there were a lot of projects sold with Asian American leads and Asian American content, but I'm not sure how many of them made it to air.
Yeah.
You know, like I know just anecdotally a bunch of projects that didn't make it to air.
Well, I was so happy as the success of Killing Eve, and I know Sandra Oh is one of your dearest friends. You know, my daughter loves it. It was the first time she saw.
How old's your daughter?
She's 15.
Okay.
And she, she fell in love with Sandra Oh from watching Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
And then of course, Killing Eve. And so she's like, it's been so nice for her to have someone to watch who she thinks is so funny, such a great actress. You know, she loves her. And
yeah, I mean, you couldn't have a better role model.
Yeah.
Than Sandra.
So I'm thinking, when are you guys going to do a TV show together?
I mean, we would love to.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like we're ready for it.
We would love to. Our schedules are, the projects that we have not, our schedules have not aligned. But we love working together in the theater. That's how we started off.
Right.
Right. We work together and collaborate very closely, in the theater.
Right, but never TV.
It
Right.
just has. I mean, she was on that freaking show for 15 years. And,
Well, another question I have is, because you have such a strong history with procedural shows, with talking about cops and the law, how did you get into that, and what draws you to those types of shows?
I mean, it's just a job I got, like after the West Wing, I came back to New York because I didn't like living in LA and I didn't like working on the West Wing. And I got pregnant right away. And so, took some time off. And then the job that honestly just came across my lap was Law and Order Criminal Intent. And then it was a good job. I got to tell you that even at the time, I ended up being on it for 5 years. At the time, I wasn't fully cognizant of how lucky I was to be on a network show, 22 episodes per season, that was in New York. There's a residual system, everything but streaming. Every time an episode I've written reruns, I get a residual check, right? And so in network TV, there's just so many more reruns. And then there's also if it aired on NBC, it'll rerun on NBC, but then they'll rerun it on USA Network later. And I didn't know at that time how much more income I would get from that versus if I worked on some really cool 8-episode show on a premium cable network. Because the scale of everything in terms of what the writer makes is smaller, So I didn't know by working 5 years on Criminal Intent that I would 15 years later still be receiving checks that are a meaningful part of my income.
And that led to so many other shows, right? After working.
So that I honestly, the reason why I ended up on so many cop shows really was just by virtue of what was writing in New York. What jobs were in New York. That's how I ended up.
And how did you know how to write about cops and how they
work? I didn't, and most of us don't. There's a cop consultant, you read sample scripts and then the showrunner. I mean, that's the showrunner's job, is to sort of like guide the storytelling, and I just learned.
What about your parents? They were supportive of your career as a writer. Is that right?
No.
Okay. I thought they were supportive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I decided when I was 9 that I wanted to be a writer because it was the first time that I got attention for like being something other than my brother's little sister. But I think they didn't take it seriously when I was little. And then when I, got into NYU,
but which was just for the liberal arts college. I didn't even dare apply to Tisch School of the Arts. You know, I remember my mom, you know, bless her heart, but, you know, said to me, well, I guess I just hope you marry a rich man. But
We've all been told that.
yeah. But my mom actually had a massive stroke when I was a freshman and was paralyzed and aphasic after that. So she couldn't speak. So she did, in her way, though, she did express an intense love and support. It was very touching to me because she could really only say like a dozen words. And one of them was book, which meant writing, right? So if she wanted to ask me, like, because she lived 20 years after the stroke in that condition. So if she wanted to say, like, how's your career, or how's your play, or how's your project, whatever, she would say, oh, book.
So would she watch your shows?
Yeah, she did.
So they were
and she
mildly
came
supportive.
to see,
Yeah, they were supportive.
And they came to see Stop
They didn't make
Kiss, which was a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, to transport her to New York and get her to the theater and everything. It was a big deal.
They must have been so proud of you.
Yeah, they didn't like
hugely proud.
They didn't get in my way, right? And then again, after the stroke, my mother was very supportive. And then my dad will of course tell you he was supportive, but but I mean, and I'll say this, that even to this day, I can tell you, like I told him recently, like, and I can't unfortunately, I can't give you details now because the deal's not done, but I am going to be running another series for Netflix. It's with an A-list Oscar-winning actress and, you know, big, you know, A-list director. And when I tell my dad, I mean, you know, like, hey, you know, because every time I call him, he'll be like, you got a job? You working? You know, and I go like, I'm working. It's okay. You know, and then if I say like, oh yeah, I just got a job. I'm going to be doing this thing. I'm going to be running a show for Netflix. And he's like, oh, they pay you?
I'm so excited about your secret Netflix show. So this show, because on hold, right? I mean, you can't shoot anything. This is a
what
big
show's
limbo.
On hold?
The one that you can't tell us about.
Oh, no, it's not on hold because of that. The deals are still being done. So it's, you know.
Okay. But you can't. It hasn't been shot.
Well, we need to write
right?
it. We need to.
You have to write. Okay, it's that early.
Yeah, the writing has to happen first, right? Yeah.
But the writing, you're in the process of writing the Netflix show, and you're in the process of writing the pilot for the Francis Cha show.
Yeah.
It feels like there's so much, or was so much momentum about Asians in film and in media. And I know that there's this coronavirus that's a global pandemic, but and nobody knows the future of production.
Yeah.
But do you feel that too? I mean, do you see more scripts? You said that there's definitely more buzz about things being picked up, but are they being produced or do they get through? It's wonderful that you're in a position on the inside to be able to advocate for the inside and not be just a person who's knocking on the door.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see more people too? I mean, I know there's another Korean American, is it Angela Kang in The Walking Dead, who's a career showrunner.
Yep.
It's I mean, there's two of you. Are there even more?
Sue Hugh.
Mm-hmm.
She is she's doing Pachinko.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's shooting now?
I don't know where they are in their process.
So they have a Korean American.
Yeah, I would just say she. Yeah, I
She.
think. I mean, she's running it, and I think she's writing most of the episodes. I mean, she had a writer's room with a lot of Korean American, but not exclusively Korean American writers. That helped her break the season, but I think that she's writing all of the episodes. Yeah,
I see.
Yeah, it's a real passion project for her. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where they are in that. But I mean, I mean, I don't know. But like, you know, when we were thinking about If I Had Your Face, we were thinking like, oh, well, we'll probably go to Korea to shoot, like, again, this is a show that would benefit from all the scripts being written in advance, because we would want to go, you don't want to go to Korea like for 2 days every episode, right?
Yeah.
You can't afford to do that. So if we have all the scripts written ahead of time, and again, it hasn't been picked up to series yet, so this is all like, hypothetical and hopeful, but all the scripts written. And so we identify, okay, so in total, over the 10 episodes, we have 6 weeks worth of scene. We have 26 scenes that absolutely have to be shot in Korea. You know what I mean? Like, we need to feature, the the Seoul skyline. We need to feature Gangnam. We need to feature the river. You know what I mean? Like, we do very much. One of the appeals is the show is the ability to show Korea in a way that it hasn't been seen. Previously, our thinking was like, okay, so we'll identify there's 25 scenes that absolutely have to be shot in Korea. We'll go to Korea for 2 months, shoot those out, and then for the other 130 scenes that comprise, it would be more. It would be for the other 200 scenes that could take place on a sound stage, we'll shoot those here, in the States, right? I would want that because my family's here, right? I'm not going to take everybody to Korea for a year. But now, again, hypothetical, but like, Korea is one of 2 countries that didn't shut down production, that didn't shut down production, right? And then also, they've totally flattened the curve. So it actually might be better for us to do our show in Korea, because they work that shit out. You know what I mean? And in a way that we're still scrambling. People were in back rooms and stuff, like trying to hammer numbers and procedures and all that stuff. And Korea,
you're going to have to try to fake the US scenes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'll be, all the Korean scenes will be like expansive and cinematic and all this stuff. And then the handful of scenes that take place in the States will be like one person walking down the street or one person talking across a cafe, to another. Yeah, who knows? But it feels like, it feels like I feel, I don't want to say lucky, right? Because, this is not a good time, and, people are really hurting and suffering. It's terrible, but it is. It's
serendipity.
It is a weird.
It's a good time to have a show taking place in Korea. That's fascinating. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. Well, just tell us. So before we wrap up, so what are your plans for the next couple of weeks? What are you going to focus on, assuming we're still at home? Oh my God. What will you be doing? Like personally too.
Every day I'm juggling because I have other projects too that I didn't talk about, which is fine. But I have a lot of projects in various different stages. I will probably be running a virtual writer's room for this Netflix series, probably, within a month's time, while also juggling all this stuff.
You're a busy lady.
I'm busy, and I do think it helps me, because I do read the headline. I'm not like obsessively reading every article, but I think that because I have so much to manage in my work and personal life, that's overwhelming. Those 2 things alone, without paying attention to what's going on outside or why I'm inside and why my kids are home, is itself overwhelming and requiring all my energy to manage, that it kind of makes me feel like, I'm not twisting in the wind and worried about what is the next thing, because just on a daily basis, I have a to-do list that I can only get 1/5 through.
Well, thank you for making the time for us.
Yes, it's pleasure. Thank you. Did I just say pressure? I meant pleasure. It's a Korean thing.
K-Pod is a production of KoreanAmericanStory.org. Our editor is AJ Valente. Our producer is Jessica Park, and our executive producer is HJ Lee. You can follow K-Pod and see Juliana's photographs of our subjects on our new Instagram at KPodPod. That's KPODPOD. And you can always email us with comments and suggestions at kpod@koreanamericanstory.org. Thanks.